The last time I discussed Pokemon on here was my review of Pokemon Yellow for the NES, a rather faithful and enjoyable port of the Game Boy title, and while there are a great wealth more of RPG Pokemon bootlegs that I could discuss, there's at least 16 main examples of that on the GBA alone, it's somewhat fun to see what other genres developers thought the Pokemon characters might fit into, and even more fun to see them slap Pikachu's face all over where it has no business being. Case in point, Pokemon Diamond for the Game Boy Color. This game's particularly interesting as it's technically a threefold pirated game, being mostly a graphical hack of an unofficial port of Super Mario Bros. 3 by developer Yong, known as Super Mario 3 Special. The version I'm reviewing was further hacked by Li Cheng to fix some gameplay elements. To be 100% accurate, this version of the game goes under the name Shuma Baobei Haizishin, or if Google Translate is to be believed, Digimon God of the Sea? For convenience sake though, I'll just stick with Pokemon Diamond. The instant you start up the game, a certain level of quality is established. A series of low-resolution images from the Pokemon anime are accompanied by sounds trying desperately to be something like music. The purpose of these screens, I'm going to assume, is to set up a story of some sort, but if that's the case, it's safe to say these plot threads aren't addressed by the game's end. The game itself is broken up into 5 levels, each inspired by a level from the first world of Super Mario Bros. 3. The visuals here, minus a few things, namely some reskinned enemies and old man-faced Pikachu, do a fair job of portraying these classic environments, and wouldn't seem out of place in an official Mario Bros. 3 port, had Nintendo made one for the Game Boy Color. Graphically speaking, in general, Pikachu really is the only thing that seems completely out of place. The replacement Koopas and Goombas fit pretty seamlessly into the world, and would be totally plausible as Mario Galaxy enemies. The last thing I want to mention as far as the visuals go is the colorization, and this is something that a lot of Game Boy bootlegs have in common. The colorization isn't the best. Now this isn't something that bothers me personally, but it's something that a lot of people have commented on. The colors in this game look very washed out, and if you play other games by the same developer like Sonic Adventure 7, you'll see a similar thing. The level design we got is pretty good here, from the perspective of a Mario title anyway, only suffering a bit from an over-reliance on death pits. The level music, however, is a different story. Though it's not immediately obvious at first, the soundtrack is actually based on SMB3, but as was the case with the title screen, the music really feels like it's struggling to carry itself, every once in a while reminding you that it kind of has a tune before then going on a painful auditory non sequitur. Now, I mentioned the level design very briefly a little bit ago because I wanted to set up to this as we move into the gameplay. To make my thoughts perfectly clear, the design would work well in a Mario title, and while this game does a good job of pretending visually that it is one, within the gameplay we begin to see the true cracks in this facade. If you recall my Super Mario 4 and Pirate Super Mario World reviews, a similar thing is going on here. In short, it takes a long time to gain momentum, and a much longer time to lose it. Perhaps it's just the recency effect at play here, but I have to say that I feel this game has to be the worst out of the 3 in regards to stopping your forward motion once you've started. It feels very disconnected from the controller, almost like the game is controlling itself. No doubt countless deaths will be had as Pikachu casually strolls off a platform into the abyss. This leads me into sort of a strange complaint, and it's not something that I've really complained about for as far as I can recall, but the level order here is every kind of wrong. The first level of the game is one of the hardest, if not the hardest, in the entire thing, due to Pikachu's slip-sliding antics and a plethora of death pits which play off that in the worst way. After clearing it, which no joke probably took 4 total hours of practice to do without saves, the game becomes pretty laid back and almost fun for a while. There are much fewer death pits, enemy placement is more forgiving, and the need for precision platforming becomes rarer in these levels. If this was moved to the second to last level, it would do a lot for this game, and as I understand it, that's exactly how it was in the original Mario 3 Special version. This is but another area of disjunction in this game. Disjunctive music, disconnected controls, disordered level progression, and by extension broken difficulty. Now in many works of art, such as music for example, a little dissonance can pay off big time, but too much and it becomes hard to listen to. I think this is the easiest way to determine the quality of a game. Simply ask yourself what the smooth to rough ratio is. I think many of the best games have 3 parts smooth for every 1 to 2 parts rough, generally speaking. Another way to judge a game, though, might just be to look up its ending screen, and if it looks something like this, then maybe avoid it. Lastly, before we wrap things up, a few minor gameplay bits. Rather than collect cards at the end of the level, you hit a block and collect a power-up. Just a minor difference. The game has only one main power-up, but as I understand it, the original version features a super leaf as well. Also, the mushroom in this game doesn't grow Pikachu, rather it turns it green, which ends up being strange because you have a duck animation that doesn't actually duck. The power-up stuff doesn't really matter that much in the end, because most of the deaths are not enemy-related. The last thing to note is that there are no bosses in the game. The final course ends like all the rest. Well, with the added bonus of a disappointing ending screen. Overall, I would not recommend Pokemon Diamond in any of its forms. While it is interesting to discover and visually impressive, it is a brutal and frustrating playthrough. As always, kudos to the developers for giving it their all, but as we will see in the coming reviews, if you're looking for an interesting but enjoyable Chinese/Taiwanese pirate or knockoff, we can do much better. Thanks for watching, everybody.